may know him best as an Emmy Award winning songwriter and ACM Song of the Year nominee that has also won 16 ASKP awards and written with some of the biggest artists in the world, such as Faith Hill, Carrie Underwood, Randy Travis, Garth Brooks, LeAnn Rhimes, to name a few. His songs have been at the top of the Billboard's #1 singles chart as a songwriter and as a producer, and they have appeared in TV series more than 500 times. Also known as a producer and publisher himself. I'm so honored and happy to present Trey Bruce as my guest on today's episode of My World with Stories podcast. First off, I'm so excited that you wanted to do this with me. That really means a lot. I want to cover all the amazing things that you've done in your career. Now, a lot of people have a different start to their career. So what's yours? Because everyone's is different.
Well, I was in bands as a kid in like junior high and high school, and was playing in bars by the time I was a junior in high school. You know, bands playing in bars, bands playing in bars. And then and that was out of Memphis. And so I moved to Nashville in my early mid-20s because I realized I was just going to play bars in Memphis until the end of time if I didn't go to a music city. So I could afford to get to Nashville. It was 200 miles away. So that's what I did. I moved here, and I came here to not be in bands. I came here to be a songwriter. So naturally I got in a band and I was playing in a band, and one of the guys in the band knew a guy who knew a guy that worked at Universal Music at the studio. He was the engineer there. And he got me a meeting with the song plugger there. I guess you know what a song plugger is.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's the person that goes out from a publishing company and tries to get your songs cut every day.
Right.
And so I had a meeting with this guy named Al Cooley, and we spoke for about 15, 20 minutes. And his personality is very aggressive, and he was kind of pacing around the room with an unlit cigarette in his mouth, kept saying things about Australia, you know, blooming onions, kangaroos, hammerhead sharks. And finally I asked him who he thought I was, and he said, well, aren't you so-and-so from Australia? And of course I said, do I sound like I'm from Australia? And he said, no. He said, well, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a songwriter. And he started laughing real hard. He goes, I'll be the judge of that. So I played him 2 songs, and he said, stay right here. He ran down the hall and got his boss, Noel Fox, and they came back, and I met Noel, and they asked me to come back and write there the next week with one of their staff writers. And that song got cut. It was my first song, first demo, first song, first cut. And so I spent 3 years at Universal Music, and that was the catalyst that catapulted me to whatever was next.
Yeah. Obviously, shared your start of how you got started. How did you know that you wanted to be like a songwriter and write songs?
Well, I'd been listening to music since I was about 4. My mom's older sisters were 15, and younger sisters were 15, 16, 17. They were all stair-stepped. And so I lived with teenage girls, and they played records, and I had the first Beatle album, access to it when I was about 4, and I just listened to music and just kept listening. And, you know, by the time I was in 9th or 10th grade, I was pretending I was a songwriter and writing really bad songs for the bands I was in. But I seemed to be obsessed with it as much as I was playing an instrument. And it just never went away. It was always, you know, pulling me forward.
Right. Yeah.
It was a call. It picked me. I didn't pick it.
Yeah. Like I think honestly, songwriting could be like an instrument too. Like
Oh, it definitely is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a calling.
Yeah. So you've been pretty lucky yourself of getting to write slash co-write for people that everyone knows in this world. Um,
Right.
so like when you're writing for like other artists, like for example, like you got to write for like Faith Hill and Randy Travis, like what's your process with working with another person?
Um, Working with another writer and working with an artist are two different processes.
Yes.
Um, and then, of course, working with Faith Hill or Carrie Underwood or Randy Travis or Garth Brooks or any of those people, that's different than writing with artists today because the artists they had different mindsets, different reasons to exist. So it changes over the course of years. If you're lucky enough to stay in it for multiple generations, as times change, you change with the times. But if in the old days, and I say the old days because that's when just writers would write. We didn't want or need artists. We would pretty much write whatever we felt like, especially when I was really getting started. I was very naive. I just wrote whatever came out. And my second or third cut was a song I wrote by myself, and it was number one. And I realized how little I knew about that song itself. I was just a victim. I was writing it in the car one day, and it got cut. And um, but writing with people, I have to kind of assess who's going to do what. Like if someone's stronger at one thing or the other, then I adjust and I be that other guy. Um, if there's an artist in the room, um, early on, I didn't have a screening process. So I would get in the room with anybody, and sometimes the artist, they weren't really songwriters. And those were not easy or fun writes or very gratifying for the most part. Although I was in the room with some artists that were amazing songwriters.
Mhm.
Um, but over the years, I've been able to kind of like my managers or whatever will, when they send somebody, they already know that they're a writer, not just an artist that just is getting on songs for the heck of it. Um, so if there's three people in the room, uh, I look at it like a car. Um, Only two people can ride in the front. There's no way that all three people are going to drive the car, and everybody have an equal input. So you just adjust yourself to know that right away. And that's just the nature of having more than two people on a song. And then if there's a possibility that more than one of them is the artist, we decide who we're writing for. Um, or if the artist already has everything they want, their record is ready to come out. Usually I won't be writing with an artist if they're not looking to get a record out. I'll just write with another writer. And at that point, we just look at the landscape of the planet. Who's cutting in the next 6 months? Who's their producer? What are they looking for? What did their last record do? What does their team look like right now? Are they fixing to go on a tour with Pink or with whoever? And so you just read the tea leaves, just like on a stock, and try to figure out how to play it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You wrote, well, co-wrote, I Ain't in Shakota Anymore, which is sung by Carrie Underwood. Now, you like writing that for her, it must have probably been amazing for you to write for someone that was just like getting a start and now is like this big thing.
Right. We we wrote that just a month or so after she won American Idol. I was charged with setting up a writing camp for Carrie by some of the people at 19 Management, which was the American Idol management company, and I had 15 or 20 writers come to the camp. It was about a 2.5 day camp, and Carrie, she didn't write with any of us. She'd just go around both mornings and say, tell us what she kind of wanted, and she never made a record. She was right off of Idol, really fresh. I remember the A&R people at the label were not happy about this song camp going on outside of their jurisdiction. But but Carrie walked from room to room all day long, and she'd poke her head in and say, wow, I really love what you guys are doing. Can you bring it up a step and a half or whatever? Or whatever. She wasn't writing. She was just critiquing what they were doing or saying, you know what, I'm never going to do a waltz, so move away from that. But she came in my room early the first day, and I just asked her where she was from, just asking her some basic questions, just to try to get to know her a little bit. And she said she was from Shakota, Oklahoma. And I just thought, well, that rhymes. I mean, that would sing, I think. So I just asked her to tell me a few things about her town, and that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't see her until it was a big record.
With as many friends as I could pack in my daddy's Ford, but I ain't in Shakota anymore. My hotel in Manhattan holds more people than our town, and what I just paid for dinner would be a down payment on a house. I'd rather be tipping cows in Tulsa than hailing cabs here in New York, but I ain't in Shakota anymore.
Yeah, it must be incredible.
It was fun. I mean, she wasn't in there, so it's not like we had any interaction. I've sat for hours and days with a lot of artists, where you really you become kind of related with these people. Once you're in 2, 3, 5 songs with somebody, you already have done a lot of therapy with each other, because writing songs, you have to get naked. You have to open everything up and expose feelings, good, bad, and ugly. And so you get really close with your co-writers.
When I was looking at your resume, I was like, wow, you have done so much over time. Is there like a project that you've done for either somebody or even for yourself that like you're just so proud of, and like almost like a pinch me moment, like being like, oh my God, I did that?
There are like there's writing projects, there's producing projects, there's writing a project and producing a project. Those are two different things to me. They trigger different responses. I did a project with a girl named Lonnie Rose. She's not in Nashville anymore. And this was only like 9 years ago. She and I were close writers. I mean, I just loved this girl singing, and so we wrote this really vulnerable, super raw, like disarmingly raw lyrics for a record, and we called it King's Bullet. And we never released it. We had opportunities to, and I could not get used to the fact of being an artist. I never wanted to be one. After I got here, I turned down opportunities to be one, and I just couldn't get my head around that. But I'm going to release the King's Bullet project probably in 23, and it's just super special to me. I listen to it sometimes now, and I'm really moved by it. I think it's kind of timeless, and it just lyrically is a wonderful place to be, I think.
You've also not just written for Carrie and stuff, but you've also like written for other performers, like Go to Distance by Faith Hill. Did you like suspect that to be like a hit, like when you first went in the room?
I didn't think it was going to be a hit. That was, I think me and Faith wrote that, and that was on her first album. I don't remember much about it. I remember we wrote it at somebody's condo one night. I don't remember much about the write, actually. But I don't know if she's written anything on any of her albums since.
Yeah.
That's a really rare one, because she has always been an artist that just cuts the best songs she can find. I had a couple of hits on her on the second record, but again, I didn't write them with her.
Together we are bound to go the distance. Let our hearts lead us on all the way to forever tonight. We can't resist it. The feeling's way too strong. We'll go the distance this time.
You're not just a songwriter for other people or a co-writer. You also write songs for yourself is what I assume.
Not really. It's just because I'm an artist
Right.
in a way that I create art. But sometimes when I don't have a co-writer in the room and I'm just going where my natural tendencies take me musically, I write songs that I couldn't get cut on radio artists, commercial artists. And now because there's a way to put songs out yourself, I mean, for years, people have asked, Trey, where's your Spotify songwriter page? And I didn't have one, but I'm finally putting one together, and I'm putting out a couple albums of already recorded material that I've done over the last, like the King's Bullet record. And there was one other record. I cut 10 songs in a day in the studio with some of my favorite studio players. And the record's called Rodeo Love War. I'm going to put that out this year as well, just for the fun of it. I mean, I remember when I made it, I printed up a couple thousand CDs and just gave them to all my buddies in the music business. I never did anything with it. It was just to get that musical thing out of me. But yeah, there's a lot of records to make myself. But again, it's just so I can experience it myself, really.
So, like, regarding to that of you, like, making music and for other people and stuff, you also have, like, your own music program, if I'm correct?
A publishing company?
Yeah.
Yes. My first deal at Universal was, of course, a straight pub deal. They had the publishing, and I was just a wild ass songwriter that didn't know left from right, just writing a bunch of songs. But after that 3-year deal, I started a publishing company with a partner. At that company, we were kind of independent. We had a co-venture with Warner Chappell, but it was an independent publisher. And then after that, and that was like 12, 14-year company. And then after that, I started another co-venture with Chrysalis Music. And there I signed a bunch of writers to my co-venture under Chrysalis. And one of them was Chris Jansen. He was 17 when I walked into a bar and saw him singing one night. I went to meet him the next day, and I signed him to a publishing deal when he turned 18. John and TJ Osborne from Brothers Osborne, I signed them. I think TJ, I don't think he was in college, but John was I think he was a junior at Belmont, and I gave him a publishing deal, and he dropped out of college and called TJ to town, and then I signed TJ, and then I signed a Berkeley junior named Charlie Warsham. So I just developed young artists. The publishing was the catalyst and the vehicle to be able to run it and bring in income and pay for demos and stuff. But yeah, that's a passion. I mean, there's songwriting, there's producing, and there's artist development, and all of those things come together in artist development. But artist development alone is done right. It's a big job. I mean, for me, they've always been teenagers, and you literally just sit down with a yellow pad and a pencil and a computer, and you start going, what would you write about if you wanted to write a song? I mean, and they're just starting. It's just like getting their gears going. And I signed Cree Harrison, who was runner-up season 12 American Idol. I think she was 18 or 19 then, but I signed her when she was 15 to a publishing deal. And I'd heard of her when she was about 11. I have a problem, curse, and the good fortune of recognizing really animal instincts of a star when they're really young.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's too early to sign them, but I've never had the patience to wait. So I just sign them and develop catalog with them.
Yeah, I think that's awesome that, like, you wanna help people and develop them into, like, the artist that they wanna be.
Yeah, it's very, very tricky because with Chris, he was a super punk at the time, getting to Nashville from St. Louis. he was basically living in a Monte Carlo, and and he was kind of wild and unmanageable, and it was just, the music was really kind of violent that he was wanting to write, and so we wrote a bunch of it. I took him to LA. We wrote with some I let him write with some of my buddies in Guns N' Roses for some of the project, Duff McKagan, and rewrote with John Five from not Marilyn Manson, but another one of those kind of bands. So we were really, letting Chris do what he wanted, and that's kind of a curse because I like the artist to do what they want. If they say, Trey, I want to go over here, the last thing I want to do is go, I love what you do, but I want you to go over here. That's crazy. I want to go where they want to go. And about 9 out of 10 times, that's not where the record labels want them to go. He had to change in order to get a record deal, but that's the way it goes. It's the constant battle between commerce and art. One, you're not guaranteed a way to make money. You're just doing it because you love it. And the other way, you're reporting to Wall Street. You just happen to be making songs for radio.
There's been so much, like, the past couple of years, like, with COVID and stuff, like, you could definitely probably write a song about that horrific time.
That was a real prolific time for a lot of people because they couldn't go anywhere. I started getting really busy about 6 months into COVID, and it's continued, and I've never been this busy. I mean, I am constantly getting calls from artists or managers about writing with the artist or about producing records. And it's just never seen this much work.
Yeah. Like, I actually started the podcast during COVID, and, like, my teacher was telling me, she's like, you wouldn't have had this if we didn't have COVID. And I was like, you're right. And I'm, as much as COVID was awful, there's, one thing to come out of it to be grateful for.
Right.
Yeah.
Many times I felt guilty because of how much my work changed and got better during COVID. Because my studio's in my house, and I didn't leave here, that's for sure. I wasn't going anywhere during that. There was nothing for me to do but just create.
Yeah. I think that's the most coolest part about, like, being on shutdown is, like, everyone got to create what they wanted.
And I reached out during that period, like early into COVID, I reached out to artists. I would just search the internet. And when I would come across an artist that I liked, that I believed was truly an artist, and I would, whether it was a male or female, I would listen to all the things they post and just see if they were emulating other artists or if they were doing their own thing. Even if they were doing covers, were they singing them like the artist or were they singing them like themselves, oblivious that anyone had ever cut the song before? Yeah. And I found a few that were really great, and I just cold called them. I reached out and said, introduced myself and said, have you ever co-written a song with anybody? And most of them said no. They're in cities where there's no music business. Russia, Poland, Germany, Vienna, Canada, just all over the place. And found some really, really talented artists, and have made records on them. Some of them have not met. It's wild.
Yeah, that was me with the podcast. Like, I think I've only met, like, maybe 1 or 2 people, like, actually in person, which is kind of insane. But virtual counts.
Yeah, it does. It's not going away.
Yeah, that's the I think the good thing about the internet, though, is that there's so many, like, resources that you could use.
Yep.
You probably wouldn't have found those people.
Oh, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have had the time off to do it. I mean, suddenly the influx of writers and artists coming to my studio 3 to 4 times a week, it just stopped. Nobody was going anywhere, and I just had to do something. It was driving me crazy.
Do you have, like, any advice for those out there that are aspiring to do what you do or to just become a artist in general?
I would be lying if I said there was some solid advice. that works from one month to the next right now. It used to be that a trend or a cycle or a process of the way certain parts of the music business worked would last for years, 8 years, 5 years, 4 years, but nothing is lasting that long now. We're watching evolution in real time. It's like watching something be born and change and go away in our lifetime, but in over 18 months period. The way to the next thing that's going to be big that I think will change for independent artists and do-it-yourself artists is Web3. I mean, it got a big push a year ago, and it just wasn't ready. It's ready, but the people that were trying to educate us on it weren't ready, and it fell on its face a little bit. But that's not going away, and the music business is going to be one of the biggest benefactors of that. But as far as just there's so many directions an artist can run now. I don't think that record labels and then of course radio after record labels are in charge necessarily anymore. It was that, you know, an artist to break, they had to get a record label to spend a lot of money on a record and spend a lot of money doing a 3-month radio tour. I mean, those things cost a fortune. And then all the radio stations do is promise to get you on the radio when your song goes up for ads that week. And now artists break without a record label and without getting on the radio. So there's a certain amount of fear that must be with labels and radio right now, because the cat's out of the bag. Artists can break themselves, and it's not going to go away. It's just getting more and more and more. So there's where there used to be superstar and then everybody else on the bottom. Now there's this massive middle class of artistry. It's bigger than any record label. It's huge. You've got people, I mean, I could scroll all day on Spotify and find artists I've never heard of that have 50 million monthly listeners. I mean, that's insane. And that's not even a lot. It's just, there's so many ways for artists to break themselves. And sync is a great way for artists to break themselves. It's not about, did you make $50,000 on that sync? It's, did you get 300,000 Shazam hits for making $1,200 on a sync? Because if you get lots of, if people search you out during the week that song is on TV, you already know it goes crazy. And you know about the big famous ones like Bush, but there's lots of others that just get 500,000 Shazams in one day. And next thing you know, they're making a good income for their family, going on vacation, and just doing music for their life.
Yeah.
So there's lots of niche areas for artists to make their own music and make money.
Yeah, I was thinking of that because like my generation is so much on TikTok. Like everyone's on TikTok.
Yep.
And I find like so many singers on there, and like they'll have over 1 million views, and I've never heard of them before, and they're like apparently viral people. So yeah.
Yeah, I've watched a lot of my friends and writers that I deal with, artists that I deal with personally, and they can bang their head against the wall for months on there, doing videos, doing songs, doing verse choruses, doing whatever the new trend is for the week or month, and just get nothing. 30, 230, 50 views and stuff. And then they'll do a hair video one day and they go 500,000 in 24 hours. And how you incorporate that into a business plan is beyond me, because I just don't think you know when you're going to do a hair video and it's going to work, or, you know, put dog treats between your dog's ears and make them do whatever. I mean, there's so many weird, wacky things that cause you to go viral, and then you go, oh, and I'm an artist. And I don't think, when I deal with the promotion companies, when one of my artists is putting out a single,
Yeah.
and they've got streaming promotion, they've got marketing, they've got advertising, all these things to put money into. And I can talk to a publicist on the sly, not with my artist or not part of the business plan. I can just call Steve on the phone and go, Steve, what streaming promotion company really makes a difference? And they'll just say, Trey, I don't know. Because I'll have some kids spend $20,000 for a 3-month campaign or $10,000 a month for a 4-month campaign, and he can't get arrested. And then there's another kid that spends no money and starts knocking out 150,000 streams a month with no budget. And at that point, it's just a matter of the thing we cannot foresee, all the stars just lining up. The song works, the video performance works, and it might not be because it's great, it might be because it's not great, but the lyric is so compelling that it works with a video that's cheap, and they can't turn away from this artist's voice. Or the voice might not even be that good. It's just so many things. None of us can program what causes the stars to line up. That's what's exciting and frustrating about it.
Yeah, I totally understand. So is there like any upcoming work in the process that, well, not in the process, that I should say, like, that is coming out, or what you could say
Around me, around something I'm working with?
like around you and like what's going on?
Not really. All my artists just constantly put out. I've got an artist called Sin Plus in Italy that I've been writing with for about 6 months. And they have a little bit of momentum going on. Their live dates are going really great. And they're recording and putting out one song at a time. But they're always have like 3 different ones in production. And I'm really happy how they've been coming along. And then in country, I really don't have any new artist in country right now that I'm overly excited about. Actually, I don't have a country artist right now, and it's been that way for several years. During this current fad of what country music has been going through for the last couple of years, I haven't been inspired by it, so I've just kind of left it alone. But I think it's about to turn in a really big and interesting way. Because of this Zach Bryan kid breaking on Yellowstone.
Do you have like a goal that you have for like yourself in the future?
Yes. I mean, I have the basic goals, like I'm putting some records out, I'm doing some more records, writing with artists, yada, yada. But I am really excited about a venture that I'm working on that deals with film and TV post-production, naturally recording studios, but it involves music moving forward in Web3 and the way we collaborate and the way we create value. Like I think there's an emptiness where if you write 10 songs and they have no value until a publisher or an artist or a record label says they have value. And I think songs are valuable before then. And I think there's a way to find out how to monetize that and let artists create value for themselves as they develop a catalog instead of waiting on someone to cut their songs and put them out. And I think a lot of that is Web3 based technologies and blockchain, a bunch of really boring, geeky stuff that I don't have the bandwidth in my head to completely understand, but I work with people that do. So I think AI is going to be fine. There's AI can write records the way a lot of songwriters are writing records right now in several popular formats of music. Those you're writing records, not songs. Because a song just needs a melody and a lyric. But some of these the records that are out don't really have much of either. So they're just writing a record. And I think that with artificial intelligence, I'm already working with a company that does a really cool product, and I'm using it to write more film and TV types of songs. And it can't write my lyric. There's nothing it can do it can craft a lyric, but it can't write an original lyric. It can't make new cliches out of ones that I haven't thought of yet. But I think it's a great thing, and I think there's no reason to fight it because it's out.
Yeah.
So I'm excited about everything in music coming up.
Yeah, I'm like curious. Like I've been lately like watching like American Idol and stuff, and it's so weird like when you watch it because you never know like who could be like the next big thing, and I just think it's like crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. I've only watched the show a few times, and it's and I kind of know how the burrito's made, so I know there's a lot of scripting in friction and things to make the audience emotional and the viewers at home. But it's entertainment, and then we've gotten some great artists out of it along the way. We've definitely made lots of great strides in networking and connecting parts of the music business that would have never connected.
So where could people follow you and stay up to date with you?
On Instagram, I'm Music Love War. The things that I'll be putting out before the end of the year, personally, just my little projects, you'll find out about them through there. And through there, you can also find my website, which leads you down another couple of trails. But Music Love War, one word.
I can't wait to see what's next for you and stuff.
Me neither.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Trey, for doing this with me.
You bet,
Thank you
Brooke.
so much for listening and watching to My World with Stories podcast. For more info, go to Instagram and Facebook at My World with Stories podcast, and make sure that you give us a like, a subscribe, a follow, whatever you want. Do it because we love you guys so much. And thanks for being with us. Bye.